Okay, so people in the hospitality industry often think that they got a fucked up mind, and I did for years. I recently read Walter Russell's book, The Universal One. It was written back in the 1920s, and I had quite a revelation. There's two ways of thinking, okay? First of all, well, there's more, but there's two things that generate your thoughts, and that is generative and radiative thoughts. The generative is the electrical positive thoughts that you have, and the radiative is the negative magnetic thoughts that you have. They create um, uh, motion in opposition, which your mind wouldn't produce the thought if you didn't have both negative and positive flowing through there. Your mind wouldn't work. Your brain wouldn't produce thoughts. So I got to thinking, well, if it's perfectly natural to have positive and negative thoughts, why has society shamed us for negative thoughts all these years? I mean, when you were a kid, if you even discussed negative thoughts with your parents, they thought you were fucked up. And if you said anything about negative thoughts or sex thoughts, you were sent to the priest, and you got to confess your sins. By the way, you know why there's a curtain in front of between you and the priest? Because he's over there laughing his fucking ass off because he knows this is exactly the way your mind works, and you're not screwed up. We're there, oh my God, I'm a terrible person. I had negative thoughts. I flipped a chapter ahead of that and throw into that the sex principle. Your mind wouldn't produce thoughts without, every once in a while, the sex principle coming into your mind. Oh, that's the first thing we were sent to the priest to cure. We had thoughts about sex. You can't have thoughts about sex. You can't have negative thoughts. But guess what? This is how your mind works, and it wouldn't work. Your brain wouldn't produce thoughts if it didn't have this motion in opposition. So, I got to thinking. Well, a lot of people, especially in the hospitality industry, we lay awake at night, just replaying all of these endless loops of things that happened at work, negative guest interactions, negative interactions with management or coworkers, and our mind runs with them. Your mind has neuroplasticity. You can reject the negative thoughts, but just remember, you're not messed up because you have negative thoughts. Your thoughts are a part of you, and in this human experiment, okay, we're thrown all these thoughts. Before I even studied metacognition, I used to think, well, why do we have positive and negative thoughts? Why don't we just, use our neuroplasticity and only encourage positive thoughts? Well, like I said, your mind wouldn't work if you didn't produce any negative thoughts. But if you run with those negative thoughts and you start ruminating about that, you're training your brain to produce more of those thoughts, okay? So, like I said, before I even studied metacognition, I used to say fuck you to my thoughts. But then I thought, well, who's putting the thoughts in there? Because I'm not generating those thoughts. They just happen. And that's when I figured it out. That who am I saying fuck you to when a negative thought pops into my head, or a sexual thought? I just say fuck you and I move on to the positive because, hey, we're supposed to have positive thoughts. I want more positive thoughts in my head. Am I saying fuck you to God? That's what I thought. But then I thought, no. God wouldn't have put that thought in my head. God just gave me this gift of a human incarnation, and I came to this fucking planet just like you did, and I signed up to be a human being to learn a lot of lessons about being a perfect soul. And in going through all that, I figured out that it's always going to happen. You just have to let the light win out. You know, the positive thoughts have to outweigh the negative thoughts, and then you'll start to train your brain in that direction. You're never going to get rid of the negative thoughts. You're certainly never going to get rid of the sexual thoughts. So, what's my advice to you? Live fully, love fully, do what you think is right. You know, I had a guy in my Reiki 2 class, and we were at lunch, and he said, Jay, you just have no idea of the negative thoughts that come into my head. And I said, but that's okay. That's perfectly natural. You just have to let the light win out. Let the positive thoughts win out over the negative thoughts. And once you start to live that way, in studying metacognition is basically thinking about your thoughts, or your awareness of your thoughts, and or your consciousness of your consciousness. It's knowing that, okay, that thought right there, I don't know where the hell it came from, but you know what? I don't have to give it any energy. You know, your thoughts take up a lot of energy. You wonder why you're depressed at the end of the day and you have no energy. It's because of all the negative thoughts. And if you work in a toxic workplace, trust me, I could lose all my energy for the day by 8 o'clock in the morning when the first complaint comes in. So I know what you go through at work. But let the positive thoughts win out. Let the light win out. I kept telling my buddy, just let the light win out. Your brain will rewire itself to where you produce way more positive thoughts than negative thoughts. Metacognitively, if you are aware of your thoughts and you're constantly thinking about your thoughts and you dismiss or are consciously able to dismiss negative thoughts or sex thoughts or whatever thoughts you don't want, that's when you're truly evolving as a soul. That's when you've made it. That's when your progress will start to move forward. Your spiritual progress will start to move forward in leaps and bounds because you're aware of what's happening in your head. I hope this wasn't too confusing, but this is really for everybody who thought that they have a fucked up mind. Well, guess what? You do. Good luck.